Good day, I'm Andrea Chizom and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, February 25. Jamaica has passed its 7th straight IMF quarterly test under the Extended Fund Facility. Head of the IMF mission to Jamaica, Yankees Martin, and Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips held a press conference Wednesday afternoon to provide the update. It confirms that the country met its targets and structural benchmarks for the October to December 2014 period. The findings from the IMF staff mission to Jamaica will now have to be confirmed by the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund. We'll have more on the implications of the latest successful review in tomorrow's program. In the meantime, the Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ is reporting that the services industry grew by 0.7% in the October to December quarter of last year. Hotels and restaurants and the transport, storage and communication sectors were the biggest performers. However, producers of government services and electricity and water supply sectors decreased. For the goods-producing industry, all sectors except construction declined. Construction was up by 1.2%. Overall, for the October to December quarter, the Jamaican economy contracted by 0.3%, representing the second consecutive quarter of decline. The PIOJ's Director General Colin Bullock said the drought and other factors led to the decline.
Lower than anticipated alumina production due to technical challenges at one refinery. Longer than anticipated closure of the Petrojam oil refinery. And slower than anticipated implementation of construction projects, both private and public.
For this quarter, however, the PIOJ is anticipating an improvement and has projected real GDP growth to be within the range of 0.5 to 1.5%. Both houses of parliament have now passed legislation to decriminalize the possession of small quantities of ganja and its use for medicinal, therapeutic, religious and scientific purposes. The Senate passed the Dangerous Drugs Amendment Act 2015 on February 6 and the House of Representatives followed suit this Tuesday.
It begins to correct decades of criminalizing tens of thousands of Jamaicans, mostly poor young black males, for possession of a spliff. This progressive legislation also begins to correct the victimization of our Rastafarian brethren, which started in colonial times and continued after independence.
It makes the possession of 2 ounces or less of ganja a non-arrestable offense that will instead result in a ticketable infraction that does not lead to a criminal record. The amendment also permits the use of ganja for religious, medicinal, scientific and therapeutic purposes, and it provides for the creation of a cannabis licensing authority to regulate the proposed hemp and medicinal ganja industry in Jamaica. The National Security Minister says the ganja reform also has crime-fighting benefits, including freeing up police resources to focus on serious criminals and removing a source of friction between police and the community who see arrests for small quantities of ganja as harassment or oppression. The Ministry of Education is taking steps to stop the practice of schools buying student athletes without due consideration for their academic development. Education Minister Reverend Ronald Thwaites updated Parliament on the issue Tuesday. He said a policy framework for the transfer of student athletes had been developed with the support of the Intersecondary Schools Sports Association, ISA.
The ministry is not against a parent wanting to place a child in a school that has a sports co-curricular program that can enhance his or her career goals. However, we are insisting that this must not be done for monetary gain and to the detriment of the child's education.
Under the new regulations, the sending and receiving schools, along with parents, must sign consent forms which have to be presented to the Ministry of Education for approval. Students' academic records will be examined to determine if they are able to cope with the curriculum of the receiving school. The Education Minister insists that the transfer of students between schools must not involve economic gain to the student, parent or guardian. And ISA will continue to impose a mandatory 1-year wait period but will add the option of additional waiting periods or school bans where there are proven breaches in the transfer process. And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has congratulated Jamaicans and West Indian batsmen Chris Gayle and Marlon Samuels for their outstanding performances in the ICC Cricket World Cup 2015. Chris Gayle was the first batsman in history to score a double century in a World Cup innings, having posted 215 runs against Zimbabwe. Marlon Samuels also posted a career best of 133 runs. This led to the West Indies posting 372 for 2 to beat Zimbabwe by 73 runs through the Duckworth-Lewis method. In a joint statement, both the Prime Minister and the Minister with responsibility for sport, Natalie Nita-Headley, said their extraordinary performances had helped to reignite faith in our sportsmen and women in the Caribbean. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Thank you for watching.